This session of instruction is part 2 of the pre-trip inspection process. In this section, we will take a look at safety measures and things we should check, what needs to take place inside the bus before we hit the road. So let's move to the inside of the bus. As we think about inspecting the inside of the bus, start at the passenger entry door. Move the service doors in and out manually to check that they are free from restriction and have full, unrestricted travel. Confirm that the steps are free of debris and damage and that the tread are in good and acceptable condition. Then grab the safety handrail and confirm that the rail is in place and secure, and that there are no loose screws or brackets holding the handrail in place. Confirm that the entry lights are in place also, and that the lenses on the lights are not damaged. As you prepare to do the interior walkthrough, turn the ignition key on, but do not start the engine at this time. The key must be in the on position in order to test the emergency exit alarms. Now stroll through the passenger compartment, checking each seat to confirm that it is secure to the floor and in no need of repair. Be certain to affirm that the center floor runner is not loose or torn. Work your way to the rear of the bus and open the rear emergency door to confirm that it is functional from the inside and to sound the alarm. Close and latch the door. Check all the dome lenses. Make sure they are in place and they are free from damage. Activate the side emergency window alarms by turning the lever and opening the window. Do not activate the roof hatch alarms, as this may cause the hatch to break away from the bus. Now return to the front of the bus and confirm all items of safety equipment as being on board. Be sure to identify each one of the items listed. While the seatbelt cutter is optional in school buses that do not have seat belts for the passengers, it is still a good practice to carry one and know how to use it. If you use an item from one of the kits, be sure that it is replaced as soon as possible. It may be wise to pick up a box of Band-Aids so you do not have to break open the first aid kit just for a Band-Aid. Confirm that the fire extinguisher is fully charged, the needle is in the green, and that the inspection date is current on the tag. It should have been inspected and approved within the last year. Confirm that all safety equipment items are securely in place. Move to the driver's seat and sit down. Examine the seatbelt as you put it on, checking for tears or frays or worn strap, and make sure that it properly buckles into the buckle and that it will release from the buckle as well. Run through all the instruments and switches to confirm functionality, including the wipers, windshield washer, and the horn. Check the windshield to make sure it is in good repair. Gauges would include engine or coolant temperature, oil pressure, transmission temperature, voltage, a primary air tank gauge, a secondary air tank gauge, a fuel gauge, RPMs, and a speedometer. There may also be light warning indicators as well as digital messages. Check the headlights, high and low beam. Check turn signals, four-way flashers, clearance, identification, and marker lights. Check the 8-way light system and the entry door lights. Check brake lights, running lights, and backup lights to the rear as well. Check mirrors to make sure they are clean and adjusted so that you can see all areas around the bus from the driver's seat, and so that you can obtain the maximum viewing area consistent with the vision requirements of federal motor vehicle safety standards. The interior rear view mirror must provide a good view of passengers in the area directly behind the bus. This mirror is mounted directly above the windshield on the driver's side area of the bus and is used to monitor passenger activity inside the bus, not to see behind the bus. It may only provide limited visibility directly in back of the bus if the bus is equipped with a glass bottom rear emergency door. There is a blind spot area directly behind the driver's seat, as well as a large blind spot area that begins at the rear bumper and could extend up to 400 feet or more behind the bus. Ensure that the mirrors are properly adjusted so that you can see the top of the rear window in the top of the mirror, so that you can see all of the students, including the heads of the students right behind your seat. You must use the exterior side mirrors to monitor traffic that approaches and enters the area surrounding the bus. The right and left side mirrors provide a clear view past the right and left rear of the bus. These mirrors are mounted at the left and right front corners of the bus by the windshield. They are used to monitor traffic, check clearances, and students on the sides and to the rear of the bus. There is a blind spot immediately below and in front of each of these mirrors and directly in back of the rear bumper. The blind spots behind the bus could extend up to 400 feet depending on the width of the bus. Ensure that the mirrors are properly adjusted so you can see 200 feet or 5 bus lengths behind the bus, so that you can see alongside of the bus, so that you can see the rear tires touching the ground. The convex mirrors are located below the outside flat mirrors. They are used to monitor the left and right sides at a wide angle. They provide a view of traffic, clearances, and students at the side of the bus. These mirrors present a view of people and objects that do not accurately reflect their size and distance from the bus. Ensure that the mirrors are properly adjusted so that you can see the entire side of the bus up to the mirror mounts. Also so that you can see the front of the rear tires touching the ground, and so that you can see at least one traffic lane on either side of the bus. Why do you need the bottom convex mirrors? It's because there can be objects or even people alongside of the bus that you would not normally see without that mirror. As you can see from this illustration, you cannot see these individuals in the flat top mirror, but they show up clearly in the convex mirror on the bottom. Make sure when backing up that you glance into both mirrors as you back up. Do not use one mirror only on any given side. It is also very good to check the mirrors on both sides of the bus as you are backing up. The crossover mirrors are mounted on both the left and the right front corners of the bus. They are used to see the danger zone area directly in front of the bus that is not visible by direct vision, and they are used to view the danger zone areas to the left side and right side of the bus, including the service door and front wheel areas. The mirror presents a view of people and objects that do not accurately reflect their size and distance from the bus. The driver must ensure that these mirrors are properly adjusted. Ensure that the mirrors are properly adjusted so that you can see the entire area in front of the bus from the front bumper at ground level to a point where direct vision is possible. Direct vision and mirror view vision should overlap. Adjust them so that you can see the right and left front tires touching the ground. Adjust the crossover mirror so that you can see the area from the front of the bus to the service door. The crossover mirrors, along with the convex and the flat mirrors, should be viewed in a logical sequence to ensure that a child or object is not in any area of the danger zone. Now conduct a safe start. Assure that the parking brake is set, transmission is in neutral. Turn the ignition key to the on position. Wait for all gauges to set and for the wait to start message on the dash to turn off. Once the engine is running, listen for unusual noises. Check all the gauges. Make sure every gauge shows a safe operating range. Pay close attention to any beepers or buzzers that may be sounding. Take notice of any message readouts there might be on the dash. Leave no stone unturned. Make certain everything is working properly before you get out onto the highway, including the horn, the wipers, the washer, and the accelerator. The brake check is an important part of the pre-trip inspection. This would be consistent and normal check during every pre-trip inspection. So let's take a glance now by way of video at a procedure that emphasizes some aspects of the interior pre-trip inspection. Again, this is by no means complete, and it is not directly associated with a school bus in this particular video. However, this video will walk us through the testing procedures of an air brake system on a commercial vehicle with air brakes, similar to that of a school bus.
Today I'll be performing an in-cab inspection and a brake test. The first thing that I want to do is check my seat belt. I have 5 safety items that I want to check first. Seat belt will be first. Make sure it's not frayed or torn. Make sure that it latches correctly and unlatches so I won't have to cut myself out of it. Make sure that my fire extinguisher is not bent, not broken, not cracked, properly mounted and secure. My pin is in place. It is within date, and it is fully charged. I want to make sure that my warning triangles are not bent, not broken, not cracked, properly mounted and secure. You can see that there are 3 of them inside of the box. Then I'm going to check, make sure that my extra fuses are underneath this panel behind the international sign. 5 safety items. Now I'm going to go into my 2 glass items. I'm going to make sure that my windshield is not bent, not broken, not cracked. It's properly mounted and secure. This is supposed to have stickers on it. I'm going to make sure that none of them are illegal. In this case, they're correct. I'm going to make sure that my other glass item, my rear view mirrors, are adjusted properly so that I can see out of them. And they're not bent, not broken, not cracked. They're properly mounted and secure. I'm going to turn my key into the on position. The first item I'm going to check is my heater and my defroster. My defroster is working correctly. My heater is working properly. I'm going to hit my left blinker. Make sure that my left blinker is working correctly on the panel. Hit my right blinker. Make sure that it is working correctly on the panel. Hit my bright lights. Make sure that they're working correctly on the panel. My 4-way flashers. My home. Then I'm going to have you get out and check my outside mirrors, outside flashes, to make sure they're working. Now we're back inside. I'm going to perform a safe start, and the first things that I'll be checking are my instrument panel gauges. Safe start, meaning my vehicle's in neutral, my parking brake is engaged, and my wheels are also chopped. I want to also know that my ABS light has come on, illuminated, and it has now gone off, letting me know that the ABS light is working and the analog braking system is engaged and is working properly. The first gauge I want to check is my oil pressure. I want to make sure that it is rising or at normal operating range. My transmission temperature, I want to make sure that it's rising or at normal operating range. Same thing with my water and or coolant. Make sure that it is rising or at normal operating range. Give it just a little bit of gas. My RPM gauge is working correctly. My miles per hour gauge, I'm going to check that later on in the brake test. I want to make sure that I have enough fuel to make it through a day's work. I want to make sure that my voltmeter is reading between 12 and 14 volts. I'm going to make sure that my secondary and primary air pressure gauges are at normal operating range of 120 to 140 or rising. There goes my governor, it just kicked on, letting me know that it is at 120. Now we'll go ahead and turn the engine off. And I will turn the key back to the on position. My gauges have now reached back up to the level that they were, 120 on my PSI for my secondary and my primary gauge. Vehicle's in neutral, wheels are chalk. I'm gonna press in my parking brake. And I'm gonna wait for 1 minute. And I'm gonna make sure that I don't lose more than 2 pounds in 1 minute. That time I'm gonna hold my service brake. I'm gonna make sure that my service brake loses no more than 3 pounds in 1 minute. Now I'm gonna begin to fan the brake. My warning buzzer should come on at 60 PSI, and then my parking brakes should pop out between 25 and 40 PSI. There goes that warning buzzer. I'm gonna keep fanning until my parking brake pops out. My parking brake is now popped out. Then I will move on to the next portion of my braking test. So in order to complete that, I will do another safe start. Vehicle in neutral, parking brake engaged. My vehicle is now started. The first thing that I want to check is make sure that my air pressure is rising properly. So once I get up to 85 pounds of pressure, I'm going to make sure that it gains 85 to 100 within 45 seconds. I will, however, give it a little bit of gas to help me build my air pressure up. So I'm going to rev the engine from about 1,000 to 1,200 RPM. Okay, my gauges have reached about 85 PSI. Now I'm going to begin my count off to 45 seconds and make sure that it ensures that it gets to 100 PSI within the 45 seconds. Okay, we're now at about 100 PSI. Now I'm going to wait for my governor to kick back on at 120 to complete the rest of my braking test. That was my governor kicking in at 120 PSI. At this point, I will remove my chocks, do a pull test, and a service brake test. My chocks are now safely removed. I'm going to put the vehicle into the drive position, make sure that my parking brake is still engaged, and I'm going to rev the engine from about 1,000 to 1,200 RPM to make sure that my parking brake is holding. The tug test was good and my vehicle held on the parking brake. Now I'm going to leave it to drive, disengage the parking brake, and I'm going to give it gas to about 5 miles an hour. And I'm going to slam on my service brakes and make sure that the vehicle is stopping properly and that it's not pulling to the left or the right, which could indicate uneven brake wear. The vehicle stopped properly and it did not pull to the left or the right. That concludes my brake test.
There we go.
Nice report.
Once the brake test is completed, turn off all the lights, shut down the engine, secure loose items, fill out appropriate paperwork. Remember, if you discover a mechanical problem during the pre-trip inspection, contact a supervisor or maintenance shop personnel to ensure repairs are made prior to operating the school bus. All right, let's consider, as we wrap up part 2 of the pre-trip, some quiz questions. How often should a driver be checking a mirror? More often in bad weather? Only at intersections? Every 5 to 8 seconds? Only at bus stops? And the correct answer is every 5 to 8 seconds. A school bus driver should be looking at a mirror somewhere. And you should be looking at different mirrors at different times. So not just the left flat mirror, or not just the right convex mirror, or not the internal mirror at the students, but all of the mirrors in sequential order so that you know what's going on at all times around your bus. What things should a driver check as it relates to the fire extinguisher besides properly charged and a current inspection tag according to the school bus manual? A, where the fire extinguisher is located. B, what the fire extinguisher ratings are. C, the capacity or size of the fire extinguisher. Or D, that is properly secured. And the correct answer is that the fire extinguisher is properly secured. It doesn't mean the other things aren't important. You certainly want to know where it is, but if you check that it's secure, you will know where it is. Most fire extinguishers are rated ABC, which means they'll fight any type of fire. And the size of the fire extinguisher, it probably varies from bus to bus. Most fire extinguishers in buses are at a size where you can spray a fire for about 8 to 10 seconds, and then it will be exhausted. How much free play is allowed in a standard 16-inch school bus steering wheel before it begins to turn the steering arm or steering column? Is it 2 inches? None. 4 inches? Or there is no restriction? Well, your steering wheel should have 2 inches of free play in it from left to right before it actually comes into contact or connects with the steering column and begins to turn the wheel. 2 inches. What should the driver do during the pre-trip before walking through the bus? A, honk the horn. B, turn on the school radio. C, turn on the ignition to on. Or D, empty the trash can. And if you remember what we just shared a few moments ago, it's turn the ignition key to on so that your alarms will sound when you check the emergency exits. How many times a day should the pre-trip inspection be completed? A. Before every run, at least once per day, only when there is a known problem, twice per week. The manual answer is at least once per day. You might challenge that. Say you're at an activity and you go to a football game and you go into the stadium and you watch the game and then you come back. I think a wise school bus driver would take a quick glance around his bus as a inspection just to make sure nothing has been vandalized or a tire hasn't gone flat or that sort of thing. But as far as an answer from the manual is concerned, it's once per driving day. All right. That completes the pre-trip portion of our instruction for our class time. We've done part 1 on the outside of the bus, and we have completed part 2, the inside of the bus, and so we are concluded with our pre-trip. Let's take time for some discussion.